We are living inside the largest financial experiment humanity has ever attempted. And most people have no idea it's happening. Never before has the world carried this much debt. Not public debt. Not private debt. Not household or corporate debt. All of it combined has exploded to levels no civilization has ever survived indefinitely. Governments now borrow trillions as if the numbers don't matter. Central banks create money with a keystroke. Families sign 30-year mortgages, the way they buy groceries, and we still talk about debt as if it's normal, permanent, harmless. It isn't. Debt has never been neutral. Throughout history, it has been a tool of power, a mechanism of control, and ultimately, a time bomb. The real question isn't whether today's global debt will trigger a crisis. The real question is when and who will be forced to pay when the system resets. To understand where we're going, we have to understand where this began. Debt is as old as civilization itself. The earliest written records from ancient Mesopotamia were not poems or laws. They were debt ledgers, records of who owed grain, cattle, or labor. In early societies, debt wasn't just economic. It was sacred. Kings and priests enforced it, and when it grew too dangerous, they erased it. Debt jubilees weren't acts of generosity. They were acts of survival. Ancient rulers understood something modern leaders pretend to forget. You cannot bind an entire population with obligations forever. Eventually, society breaks. Fast forward to Renaissance Europe. Debt evolved from grain to gold. Banking families financed kings, wars, and empires. Spain, overflowing with silver from the New World, declared bankruptcy 4 times in the 16th century. That's the first hard lesson of history. Even empires rich in resources can drown in debt when ambition outruns reality. By the 20th century, debt became global and political. After World War I, nations carried obligations so large they couldn't possibly be repaid. Germany's war reparations triggered hyperinflation so extreme that people carried wheelbarrows of cash to buy bread. Debt didn't just wreck the economy. It destabilized society and helped pave the road to World War I. Then came 1944, Bretton Woods. The modern financial system was engineered around one promise: the US dollar, backed by gold. For a time it worked. But discipline never survives temptation. By the 1960s, the US printed more dollars than it had gold to support. Foreign governments noticed and demanded repayment in gold. In 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window. That single decision changed everything. Debt was no longer limited by anything real. Money became elastic, infinite, so long as people believed. From that moment on, every crisis was solved with more debt. Lower interest rates, bigger bailouts, larger deficits. Each rescue required more leverage than the last. By 2008, the system finally cracked. The financial crisis wasn't about housing. It was about debt stacked on top of debt on top of debt. Mortgages were sliced, sold, insured, leveraged, and multiplied until a single failure nearly collapsed the global system. Banks were rescued. Markets were stabilized. Ordinary people paid the price. Since then, the numbers have gone from alarming to absurd. Global debt has surged past $300 trillion, nearly 4 times the size of the global economy. The United States now carries over $34 trillion in national debt. Interest payments alone rival defense spending. Japan's public debt exceeds 200% of GDP. Europe remains trapped in structurally unsustainable ratios. China hides massive liabilities inside local governments and state enterprises. The entire system now depends on one fragile assumption: that debt can grow forever without consequence. It can't. Debt distorts incentives. It inflates bubbles. It transfers wealth. And most of all, it steals from the future. Every dollar borrowed today is a claim on tomorrow's labor. History shows only 3 ways this ends: you repay it, you inflate it away, or you default. No empire has escaped that reality. Today, debt feels invisible. Governments don't knock on your door, they issue bonds. Inflation quietly erodes your savings. Corporations boost profits with borrowed money. Leverage feels effortless on the way up, and catastrophic on the way down. Since 2022, rising interest rates have awakened the predator. Mortgage payments jumped, budgets tightened. Refinancing became painful. Debt is only harmless while it sleeps. So what happens next? The most politically convenient path is inflation. Not loud defaults. Not honest repayment. Silent erosion. When prices rise, your purchasing power falls, but government debt shrinks in real terms. Inflation is a hidden tax, and it always targets those who least understand it. This is not an accident. It is how the system preserves itself. Debt at its core is about power. Who borrows? Who lends? And who gets rescued when everything breaks? The powerful restructure. The institutions survive. The public absorbs the losses. That's why understanding debt isn't just financial literacy. It's self-defense. If you don't see the trap, you will live inside it without realizing you're chained. Strip away the illusions. Study the patterns. Protect yourself with real assets, real knowledge, and real perspective. History doesn't repeat because we forget facts. It repeats because we ignore lessons. Debt builds. Leaders deny. Crises erupt. Systems reset. The only choice you have is whether you face that cycle asleep or awake. If this changed how you see the world, subscribe. History already wrote the ending.